Chronic fatigue syndrome is a disease characterized by profound fatigue, sleep abnormalities, pain, and other symptoms that are made worse by exertion. Hello, I am the Ronin Pawn, and this is going to be my CFS episode. I have chronic fatigue syndrome, or at least I say that because I don't have a doctor's actual diagnosis to go along with that, because I am one of this country's many uninsured. My history with chronic fatigue syndrome, or CFS, dates back to one morning at the Zen Buddhist monastery that I lived in for just about 3 years, where we got up and we went to meditation, and I sat down in meditation and I fell asleep. And this is not uncommon in any Zen Buddhist monastery, no matter how far-flung and how noble you might want to imagine it, on a mountaintop in ancient fill-in-the-Asian country blank. It's something of a rite of passage for you as a practitioner of Zen to learn how to sleep sitting up with your hands in a mudra so that the Zen master can't tell that you are not focused and counting your breaths and cutting off the strings of thought, but instead and no snoring, because that's a dead giveaway. Other than sleeping through the bulk of a 2-hour meditation, there wasn't anything very strange going on that day, but then I went to get up and go about the day's business, because part of the day's business in the Zen monastery was making the money that kept the Zen monastery, you know, there. We ran a kitchen outfit where we were making healthy, dehydrated foods for the local community and selling them at the local farmer's market, and I was kind of in charge of it all by this point. After meditation, my senior student in the Zen Center came up to me and said, "So, what do you want to do today?" And we were surrounded by my junior students, and she said it almost as kind of a joke or a setup for me to be like, "Let's go make the kale chips." And my response was, I could really go back to sleep. Which is not the thing you want to say to your senior student in the Zen Buddhist monastery at 7 a.m. But with something of a grimace in her heart that I could sense coming off of her, she said, "Okay." And then she turned around, and I went into my room and laid down on the mat for about 5 minutes, which is apparently how long it took her to talk to the Zen master and say, "Oh, this guy just said he's going to go back to sleep instead of go do the work for the day," which didn't take long for the Zen master to say, "Well, go drag his ass out of bed and get him to work." I was not happy because I'd been there for, a very long time, 2 and some years at that point, and I never said, "You know what? I need to go back to sleep." Never even hinted at that. And I suppose it was offensive that rather than the response be, "Oh, what's wrong? Are you feeling well?" it was, "What the hell are you doing? Get to work, damn it." So I wasn't very happy about it, but nonetheless I got up rather perturbed and maybe a little childish and petulant, and I stumbled out of my room, and when I say stumbled, I mean stumbled. I got about 3 steps past the rice paper doors of my cubby hole, and I fell over. I mean, just collapsed under my own weight and hit the ground hard. And I sort of dragged myself back up and leaned against the wall and took myself downstairs, and I'll be honest, I kind of wanted to drag myself out in front of them and hold, "See, this is what you want, huh? This is you just gonna drag me out of bed. Nobody's worrying about my health over here." You'd be surprised how pedantic and childish Zen Buddhist monks can get. But I made my way to the kitchen and basically started the day sort of gripping things that were next to me to try and hold myself up, and that was my first experience with chronic fatigue syndrome. It was as though all of the energy in my body just turned to liquid and oozed out through the heels of my feet into the floorboards and left me an empty man with no marrow in his bones. And in retrospect, that undiagnosed condition that nobody knew where it was coming from and just made me more lifeless and more lethargic and less ready to jump at the opportunities that I was given, it kind of contributed to me not being in the monastery anymore in the long term. But upon exiting the monastery, I did not have these chronic fatigue syndrome issues for a very long time afterwards, and so I kind of wrote it off as stress. Maybe my body trying to actuate something in my mind that says you're not supposed to be here, which now I look back and go, yeah, maybe that was just sort of a medical condition that was undiagnosed. What the hell? Humans are funny in how they like to find meaning in nothing. But then, over a year later, I found myself in a very physical job where I was a janitor and a lot of mopping and A lot of physical stuff. You'd be surprised just how hard it is to do that job. I lost like 10 pounds in the first 2 weeks. But by this time I've been doing it for quite a while. My body was completely conditioned to it. And nonetheless, in the middle of a work shift, I went from having all the energy in the world ready to go to leaning on the trash can on the trolley as though it was a walker and I were 90,000 years old. A transition which took approximately 45 seconds from feeling like complete and whole as a human being to literally panting from the effort of shuffling inch by inch along the ground. And over the course of the next few weeks at that job, it recurred and recurred again, and by that time I was in charge of other people and supposed to be making sure they're doing their jobs while I'm doing my job, and basically it led to me not being a janitor anymore too. At least not with that company, because by then I had a number of suspicions and a number of ideas of what this might be. I think my first was sodium, because it felt like a massive loss of blood pressure in my body. You know, I just couldn't find the strength to lift myself up to even carry my own weight and walk, so low blood pressure. Well, maybe that's a salt thing, because when I was in the Zen monastery, we had a very strict and strange diet of vegan, raw, no sodium, no sugar, and so it occurred to me maybe I'm legitimately not getting enough salt in my diet because salt is a necessity for human beings, and I like to pee. And I mean a lot. I pee a lot, which is a condition of me drinking as much as I do. I go through way more water in a day than is probably healthy. There's a lot of nutrients that are lost through the urine when you're over drinking, over peeing, and I do that. Then it came up vitamin D. I finally did go to a doctor and paid out of pocket for the doctor's visit, and then he ran some blood work, which I never paid for because I am a member of the uninsured, and I refuse to pay an $1,100 bill for basic blood work. You need to change your pricing. Regardless, the results of that test were my doctor telling me, you need to be taking vitamin D at the strongest dosage that they sell over the counter because your levels are 4% of normal. And well, we're at it. So there it is, problem solved. It was the vitamin D all along. Okay, now I've got vitamin D again. I can get back to work with a company that doesn't suck. And that's what I did. Until I found myself on the job once more, and once again, over the course of 45 seconds, I went from feeling absolutely fine to being a puddle on the ground who could only shuffle his way to a chair and sit down and lament what the hell is going on with me. This happened a few times on the job, and I managed to continue doing my job by not doing certain parts of it on the days when it happened and then carrying that over to the next day so that I could get that done, and then if I move that to next week, I was doing some futzing in order to make it work, but I made it work, and then, during one of these bouts, it occurred to me for the stupidest reason ever, I had just watched Men in Black 3, I think, on television. There's some time travel involved, okay? And after the time travel, the way that they discover that he's done some time traveling or that history has changed, but he's the only one who remembers it, or whatever the hell the plot of that was, the way they knew that he had traveled time was that he desperately needed chocolate milk. And because of that, I'm a weird guy. Because of that, I don't know, here I am, my body has abandoned me, I am deflated on the ground. I'm gonna have some chocolate milk. It worked out well for Will Smith. So while at work, I bought a chocolate milk out of the fridge, popped it open, drank it, and it felt like I had taken a breath for the first time in 10 years of holding it underwater. I had the chocolate milk, and just as I drank it, just as it was hitting the throat, before it even reached the stomach, I was already like, and I swear to God, I went from being completely deflated on the ground, cannot do a damn thing, I cannot resist this. The more I try to resist it, just as it says in the description, other symptoms made worse by exertion, I went from that to feeling like He-Man, ready to take on, Skeletor, and Grayskull, and other references. And as quickly as the fatigue had crushed me before, the fatigue went away and left me feeling 200 of what had become my new 100%. which is really weird. What the hell is with chocolate milk that helped me then? I honestly don't know. All I can say is that chronic fatigue syndrome has been studied, and people who have it have been studied, and one of pretty much the only thing that they've found that helps people at all is chocolate. I believe it's usually characterized as if you consume dark chocolate on a regular basis, you will have less bouts of fatigue, and I've never really heard it put as though you have a sudden spike of Goku-like power. But chocolate milk literally was my salvation. It solved it for me, and when that stuff started to come up at work, I would just go and grab a chocolate milk, I would hit it hard, and boom, I was ready to go, and that worked for a while. Eventually, thanks to the support of people like you on Patreon, directly donating money to me, I stopped working as a janitor and turned YouTube into a full-time thing. And that is now more of a problem. Because now that we've covered my past with CFS, welcome to my present with this chronic fatigue issue that I have. I am a YouTuber. My job is basically to sit in a chair and play games and make videos and just talk. And it seems simple, and it seems like that doesn't take a lot of energy, and it doesn't involve a lot of physical exertion, and wow, you found a perfect thing to do, considering that you have this problem with chronic fatigue. And I'm recording this an hour and 17 minutes, apparently, after I was supposed to be getting done with a live stream that I was supposed to do today, because we usually do them every Sunday and Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Subscribe on Twitch. And I woke up because I have an alarm set on my phone to wake me up at 2:30 p.m. on Sunday and Wednesday because my sleep schedule is so untenable. And I will remind you, description of CFS, a disease characterized by profound fatigue, sleep abnormalities, pain, and other symptoms that are made worse by exertion. I cannot get around this sleep thing, and it doesn't feel like it's part of the disease. It just feels like I'm lazy and I don't manage my time well. And maybe that's true and a part of it, but at this point, I'm reaching out for something to own because I feel so horrible as a human being, just not fulfilling my commitments and not contributing enough, and I need something to blame, so I'm reaching out to CFS. And the fact that I'm saying it that way should tell you the kind of internal and mental struggle that it is going through this, because I just feel like an asshole that I'm not doing my part. I woke up today at 2:30 p.m. on the alarm, and I knew that I was not getting out of bed, and I hit the snooze, and then I reconsidered because I knew I was not getting out of bed in 10 minutes, and so I changed it to wake me up at 3, and then I woke up at 3, and I changed it to wake me up at 3:30, and I'm just not going to be able to do a live stream today, and that's where we stand now. And the thing is, chronic fatigue syndrome sounds, even to me, like the kind of thing that you come up with so that you don't have to work for a living anymore. And very much because of that, Google has, like, the worst information that you could possibly have on CFS on the main page right now, where it reads, treatments include graded exercise therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy. Because, okay, number one, the problem is made worse by exertion. So graded exercise therapy turns out not good for it. Number two, cognitive behavioral therapy is the industry doing a wink and a nod at this thing is probably in your head, which modern science has finally put a thumb on it and said, yeah, it's not in your head. It's not low sodium, it's not your vitamin D count, it's your body's refusal to uptake calcium. Or at least that's a part of it, because it's the first physiological connection they've been able to see in people who report chronic fatigue symptoms versus people who don't. So it's a real physical thing, and you're recommending people, just get their heads straight. And since I've been cherry-picking from the description, I'll read it. Chronic fatigue syndrome occurs more commonly in women. Thank you. The cause of this condition is unknown but may include environmental or genetic factors. The main symptom is fatigue for over 6 months. The fatigue often worsens with activity but doesn't improve with rest. Oh. And this has been going on so long for me that I have tested all of the hypotheses that I could come up with, not just in terms of where is it coming from, you know, can I make a change to my diet and fix it, which no, but also I've tested the hypothesis of can I fight back against it, can I change something behaviorally, what if I slept at a certain time or managed to get more sunshine or this and that and the other. I have tried so much and I have not tried everything. But the reason I have not tried everything is because I have CFS and I can't frickin' pull it off. Earlier this week, I woke up at 6 a.m. on 4 hours sleep, but I was feeling good. I was feeling strong. I just wanted to go, and so I just went. And I attacked the day, and I was physically active. I was mentally active. I wore myself out. I did a live stream, okay? And then at the end of the live stream, I had a meal, and by 8 p.m., I passed out. I passed out hard for like 3 hours, and then I woke up, and I knew that there was no lying in bed and turning the lights off and counting sheep and getting me to sleep, and so there I sat for 4 hours, a mixture of watching TV and doing a little bit of work on the computer, making thumbnails and things like that. At the end of those 4 or 5 hours that I'm awake, now the sun is coming up, and I am beat. So here I am, living a vampire's schedule again, even though the day before started at 6 a.m. on only 4 hours sleep. I just can't break out of it. And I don't mean this to be entirely like a complaining thing. It's helping a lot for me to vent, so I don't mind that it's a little bit of a complaining thing. But I know that when I put this on YouTube, some people are going to find this who have chronic fatigue syndrome, and they're going to have somebody sitting there describing how they live back to them from someone else's perspective, and it just makes you want to fucking cry when you find someone else who, like, gets it. Like, yeah, that's your life, and worse than the physical characteristics, like, I don't care when I'm awake or when I'm asleep. I do, because it means that I don't get to participate in a lot of the things that go on, and I feel, you know, like a hermit living in a house, and I'm alone, and I've got 2 cats, but even they make me feel guilty because I don't spend enough time playing with them. Far worse than the physical condition is just the mental condition that necessarily comes about from having a chronic issue like this one, where you just can't. You just can't, and you tell yourself, okay, this is the new normal. I'm going to get used to the new normal. I'm going to reduce the amount of things that I expect myself to be able to do. I'm going to lay out my day better. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the other thing. You have all these plans, and you just can't. It doesn't come together. Your body is fighting you at every turn, and in your mind, I mean, in addition to the fact that I have major memory problems that I hope have something to do with this, because otherwise, God. But on more of an emotional level, it's just, I never feel good. I'm not getting anything done, you know? There's so much I want to do, there's so much I know that I could be doing, and I can't get myself to start doing it, and when I do get myself to start doing it, I feel the energy sap out from under me, and then I'm in the middle of it, and either I can carry on and it's going to be crappier because I'm not all there for it, or I can just stop doing it and then all of the time is wasted. And that is like my day. That is like just what goes on. And you have to get used to that being the new normal. I haven't figured that out yet. I want to do so many things. And beyond wanting to do so many things, I have so many things to do. And I feel like I'm taking advantage of you who have supported me and made it possible for me to have this job where I don't have something that necessarily physically exerts me every day that actually, at least hypothetically, works with my condition, and yet I can't even pull that off. And so that's the world that I live in, constantly feeling like, okay, today is the day, I gotta get out there, I gotta get up, I gotta do some things, I gotta record some videos, I gotta edit some things, I gotta make this work, I gotta, pay back what I owe, and almost every day I just get bitch slapped by my body saying, not today, motherfucker. And then simultaneously, there's the snake eating its own tail kind of condition, where even on the days where maybe it's not my body dragging me down, it's my mind dragging me down, because now I'm already in this state of, like, depression and feeling not worth anything, and it's harder to get up and do a thing when you... Chronic fatigue syndrome, ladies and gentlemen. If you have it, then you know exactly what I'm talking about, and if you don't, please just try and restrain yourself from saying something in the comment section that makes me feel like you didn't hear me. And even Google replies to a basic search for what is this condition about with, you know, you're probably just imagining it. You're not just imagining it, and it's not something that you can change in your diet. There are probably some things that you can do to make things better. Apparently eating chocolate and chocolate milk. Try that if you haven't. But it's gotta become the new normal. It's gotta become the new... I gotta find a way to live with this, and if you've got it, you've gotta find a way to live with this, until they come up with something for it, because there are no treatments. They're just now figuring out, like, okay, well, there's a link between calcium uptake and this thing. So... almost every frickin' day, every other day, I get out a sheet of paper and I write down like a new schedule. How can I make this work? How can I get things done? How can I achieve the goals that I want to achieve while placing less demand on myself, I guess? I keep trying to figure out a way to do it, and then I keep trying to do it, and I keep failing. And that, in and of itself, is a vicious loop of depression that you just don't want to get into. And all I can do is try and write another schedule. I used to do this while I was a janitor, while I was working a 30, 40-hour work week as a supervisor for other people. I can totally do this. No, you can't. You have chronic fatigue syndrome now. I guess my hope when I started out recording this was that people who have CFS will find this video and watch it, and, you know, even just to see someone else writhing in the same pain that you're in is kind of cathartic, isn't it? Just to know that you're not alone, especially with a condition like this where, you know, people don't understand it, and it just looks like you're being lazy, and you start to feel like maybe I am just being lazy, because the truth is you are sometimes. You know, CFS hits you, and when you come out the other side of it, when you get a good day, you have to somehow summon yourself from a place of mental exhaustion and depression in order to seize that good day and get the juice out of it, and it's hard. So you do actually end up wasting some of the good days that you have. To come back to Buddhism, there's a saying, if you chew on something long enough, it'll taste good. And I'm going to liken that to saying everything becomes normal when you do it long enough. So things will normalize, but you have to let them. And this is not me letting them. I think it's me letting them. I think it's me trying to reinvent a schedule that works with me, but the schedules I keep writing have such demands on me, and it doesn't seem like it, because it's like, I can get all this done in 3 days of the week, and I really should be able to, but I can't, and as long as I keep trying, I'm not letting it become the new normal. So, buttons. I don't know how I go forward from here. I don't know what the thing is. And more so, I don't know if I have, like, the mental strength to do what the thing is, because it's so much easier to just keep doing what you've been doing, you know, than to make a significant change. But it really feels like it's time for a significant change. Maybe the reason why I've recorded like 15 minutes worth of wrap-ups here and I'm going to end up using this one is because there is no happy bow to put on it. It is what it is. It becomes normal. You go on, you find a way to move forward, but it isn't, you know, Bambi's mom is dead. She's dead! The hunter killed her, there's no bringing her back. DED, worm food, dead. Does it suck? Yes. Is it the end of the world? No. Do other people have it worse? Hell yes. I am the Ronin pawn. You got CFS, do you? Because you seem to have a lot of energy. Yeah, well, it comes and goes. Like me. Go on out. I was peeing. I do it a lot.